So this film, Rituals of the Elite, it goes into areas that most people won't go into. You won't hear this information everywhere else. I'm not just saying that, but it really does take the surface level information that you get in even the alternative media now and trace it back to these esoteric and occult principles and the beliefs of these this cult, this global satanic cult, which inverts everything. So that's what it's about. It's showing you why these people do what they do and their beliefs. And although we might not believe in these things, they certainly do. And it shows you that this goes back thousands of years into the ancient Egypt, into Mesopotamia, into the Middle East, and possibly as far back as the Mayan culture. They've got access to some sacred or secret knowledge that most people don't have access to, and it's just really about the principles of the way this world works, but they invert these principles. So you have the left-hand path, the right-hand path. The left-hand path is supposed to be your dark path. Right-hand path, it takes the same information and walks on the lighter side of things. You see this in the Freemasonic checkboard. It shows you the dark and light, and they believe that equal parts are important. So as much dark as they can do, like Aleister Crowley said, I think it was Aleister Crowley says, do what thou wilt. As much carnage as they can cause, they can equally say that they are responsible for the good in response to that. That's how deluded these people are. So they looks into the rituals that these dark occultists do and why they do what they do, and the gods, in inverted commas, who they are serving. No one else was going to be looking into this information, so that's what the film is about. It goes as deep as it can do in this reality and how that connects into the reality beyond. So anyone who's a bit confused as to why the likes of, say, Elon Musk would have satanic symbology in his Halloween costumes or on his Tesla logo, and why they use the inverted cross, or you see these kind of like symbols in the mainstream media, in alternative media, but you also mainly see it in like Hollywood. Why do these people put this symbology everywhere, and why do we hear things like Bohemian Grove and Burnham Beaches, which is another place where these satanic rituals used to apparently take place? Why do we hear about shape-shifting and all of these things like the archons and entities from other worlds? Why do we look into the biblical text and we see these other like fallen angels and jinn and all of these other demonic entities? What has that got to do with the way the world is run now, and especially what has it got to do with the hundreds of thousands of children that go missing each year? It's a very dark subject matter, but until we start looking into these things and revealing them, shedding light on them, we won't know why they believe they do these things. Now, we're not saying we believe that these things actually work, but they certainly do. So if you're interested in why these people, these occultists, these eugenicists, which is transhumanism in today's modern parlance, why they do what they do, this answers that question.
And a lot of the children end up in these underground bases. And let's just say these entities use them as food and leave it at that.
So having said that, there isn't a genre for this film. And I think that alone sets it apart. And it's really sad because these sort of films should be made. There are some really good films that have been made about elements of this through the years. People have picked up elements of this information, but it all does connect, like something like transhumanism, which is again the modern day word for eugenics, and how that connects to the likes of Elon Musk through the likes of Julian Huxley, Thomas Huxley, his grandfather, how all these things connect and how this mentality has been fostered for thousands of years. So there isn't anything like this in this genre, but there are elements of other films that pick up parts, but this just puts it all together and shows you, look, in about an hour and 30 minutes, hour and 20 minutes, that this actually all connects, and it's very well organised and very well compartmentalised. So certain people will be working in certain areas but won't have a clue what the upper levels are doing, and most people won't have a clue. Most people are good people working in a bad system. I think the biggest overall lesson is that this is orchestrated, and there is a method to this madness. that permeates and runs through all levels of society, unfortunately. And I think it's going to be a shock to a lot of people that actually thousands of children go missing each year, and they end up in these programs, whether they're deep underground programs at some of these levels like Dulce Base, which isn't too far from Trementina Base, which is the Church of Spiritual Technology, which is an arm of Scientology in New Mexico. These things are all connected. They will actually all go back to New York. So even now, when I'm speaking about this, I can connect this and connect that, because when you start to look into it, like the funding of it, and like a web, it's all connected. It really is. I think people are going to be shocked to realise that this is actually all connected and very well orchestrated. Again, they know this. These secret societies know this stuff that we'll tell you in the film, that David tells you in the film. And his knowledge of 30 plus years of being able to connect all this stuff hasn't been put together in terms of this satanic cult and in the way that especially children are used, but many adults are sacrificed to these gods and who these gods are. So people are going to learn the fact that this is all connected and all orchestrated down to who knows what and what they have on people. And someone like Epstein is very low level, but he fundamentally functioned as someone who was getting compromat on others to keep them in line for this agenda. So he was a very small part. He was just recording what some of these people are willing to do, or the vices that have been taken advantage of, in order to get them in line, say they are a politician, for them to do what they need to do in terms of keeping this satanic agenda going. So this is widespread, and this actually seeps into every corner of society. And I think that's going to shock a lot of people, that actually it comes down to these people are very, very mentally ill, to the point where, for an example, the Bohemian Grove, when people look at that and they see the ritual going on there, and the famous Alex Jones, who did great work exposing that many decades ago, the ritual that they're doing is called the cremation of care, because they have to get rid of their morals and values. They can't care about what they're doing, so it becomes so corrupt and so destroyed, they have to convince themselves that they're doing this for a reason, and so they think that they're doing it for the greater good. And we saw that being used during the COVID thing. People were doing things that they knew were wrong, because I think ultimately and fundamentally pretty much every human being knows the difference between right or wrong. These people get to the point where they're so corrupt, so destroyed emotionally, so tired, that they don't care anymore, and that's when they become useful to this cult. And then we look into where that mentality and what that function as. People have heard things like loose and loose energy, and how this feeds off-world entities and that kind of energy, and what this place is, and why energy is so important as a food substance for these beings. It all connects, and it really, really does, and it's almost like the greatest story never told. I think it's going to be difficult to summarise it in one word. So to summarise this film in one word would be incredibly difficult, other than the title, The Ritual, or The Rituals of the Elite. Even then the title has to go along, because there's a lot of information in there. I would say I could probably get it down to an uncomfortable truth. My name's Richard Willett, and you can watch The Rituals of the Elite with myself and David Icke exclusively on Ickonic.com.